Hello friends, I am Professor D.G. Trivedi. I am going to take your paper PH-03 Unit 1 Electrodynamics. This unit is normally taken from the textbook Introduction to Electrodynamics by David J. Griffith. This book is published by Prentice Hall of India Private Limited. From this book, total chapter number 3 is taken. Article 3.1 to 3.16, article number 3.2 to 3.24, article number 3.3 to 3.33 and 3.4 to 3.44 is taken from this book. That means it is the complete chapter is taken. Topics and subtopics I am giving you just next slide. And second part of this unit is taken from Electromagnetics by B.B. Lau. That is published by Wiley Stern Limited. And the reference book is taken normally Electricity and Magnetism by A.S. Mahajan and A.R. Rangwala. Published by Tata McGraw-Hill Publishing Company Limited. In your syllabus, the chapter number 3 title is this, Special Techniques. Actually, it was Special Techniques Calculating the Potentials. And the subtopics are like this, Laplace equation, introduction, Laplace equation in one dimension, Laplace equation in two dimensions, Laplace equation in three dimensions, boundary conditions, and first uniqueness theorem, conductors and second uniqueness theorem. Next topic 3.2 is the method of images. The classic image problem, induced surface charge, force and energy, and other image problem. The third topic 3.3 is nothing but method of separation of variables in two different coordinate systems. Problem involving with a Cartesian coordinate system and spherical coordinate system. That is your 3.3. Cylindrical coordinate system is left to your higher study. Then the fourth point, 3.4, is multipole expansion. And the subtopics are approximate potential at large distances, the monopole and dipole terms, origin of coordinates in multipole expansion, the electric field of a dipole. These are the topics in chapter 3 of your book Griffith. Now, the Maxwell's equations, electrodynamics before Maxwell's and how Maxwell fixed the Ampere law and how the Maxwell's equations are designated, that you are going to study from B.B. Lau, that is electromagnetics. This will be your syllabus of Unit 1. Now we are starting with electrodynamics. So first of all, you must know what is the difference between static electricity and time varying electric field. What is electric field? Electric field, how it is generated? Just like a gravitational field which is generated because of the mass of the particle, electric field is going to be generated because of the electrical charge of the particle. And when the electrical charge of the particle is motion, that is called current, which will be the responsible to produce the magnetic field. This way, various kind of fields are going to be produced. What is the importance of the field? Once you know that in a space, some kind of field is going to be present. Due to that field, particles will experience a force. If there is a gravitational field, then the mass particle will experience the gravitational force. And if there is an electric field or a magnetic field, the charged particle will experience force and it will be accelerated and it will be having a definite trajectory of its motion. So, motion of the particles can be studied by knowing the electric field or magnetic field or a gravitational field and how it is configured over that region of the space. And that is the reasons why we are interested that what is the electric field will be there in a particular region of the space. How it is generated? Because of the charge distribution of it is going to be produced. So, definition of the electric field can be given like this. Assume that the source of the field is a collection of discrete point charges. If instead of the charge is distributed continuously over some region, the sum becomes an integral. What it indicates? Charge can be distributed two different ways. Either the charge is going to be distributed discretely like point charges, Q1, Q2, Q3, etc., Qn. One charge can be separated from other charge. That means you can discriminate between the two charges. And each charge will be having its own position vector with respect to some reference point. This is called discrete charge distribution. Because of that, also you can find out the electric field using the Coulomb's law as well as principle of superposition. If charge is going to be distributed continuously, it means that in some region of the space, charge is distributed continuously. That means you cannot discriminate one charge from the other charge. You cannot separate out one charge from other charge. They are going to be merged with each other. They don't have a separate position vector, but you can say that that region of the space, either it is going to be volume elements, or it can be surface elements, or it can be line elements, which will be having its position vector instead of the charge. This is called continuous distribution of the charge. Then the electric field can be found out instead of summation, you have to take the integrations. And your equation becomes, a general equation is going to be like this. ER is equal to, E is the function of position vector R. That means electric field at a point P which is having a position vector R is equal to 1 upon 4 pi epsilon 0. The integration of 1 upon R square R caret dq. Now, what is dq? dq is the small amount of the charge, or that can be equal to lambda dl dash, sigma dA dash, or rho d tau dash. What is this thing? Lambda is nothing but, you can say that, linear charge density, charge per unit length. Sigma is nothing but surface charge density, charge per unit area, as well as rho is nothing but volume charge density, charge per unit volume. So, in a particular line segment dl, the amount of charge dq is equal to line per unit distance multiplied by that distance dl dash. Similarly, charge per unit area sigma multiplied by area elements dA dash, that is called sigma into dA dash. Similarly, rho into d tau dash is the small amount of the charge within that volume elements d tau dash. Thus, the electric field on a line charge can be given by ER is equal to 1 upon 4 pi epsilon 0 line integration of lambda r dash upon r square r caret dl dash. If the charge is distributed over some surface, then that surface is going to be divided into different area elements, dA1, dA2, etc. And electric field can be found out taking a surface integration of 1 upon 4 pi epsilon 0 sigma r dash upon r square r caret dA dash. And if the charge is continuously and non-uniformly distributed over some volume, then this electric field can be obtained by taking the volume integration of rho r dash upon r square r caret d tau dash 1 upon 4 pi epsilon 0. Now the Gauss's law. What is Gauss's law? Gauss's law is nothing but it relates the electric field to the electrical charge. How the electrical charge can produce the electric field in some region of the space, that you can find out using the Gauss's law. So it is nothing but some Gaussian region, that is going to be the bound surface which is enclosing some volume region, and inside that volume charge is continuously distributed. Then because of that charge the electric field is going to be produced, and at the surface at different points it is normally perpendicular to that surface. And if you take out every surface element dA1, dA2, etc., and E dot dA, that is called the amount of flux coming out through that area elements. And if it is going to be integrated over the entire surface, then it is called the total flux coming out through the Gaussian surface E dot dA, that is equal to Q n circle upon epsilon 0. That can be proved. Q n circle is nothing but the total charge within that volume elements. So from this Gauss's law, we can find out, and using the divergence theorem, surface integration of E dot dA is equal to volume integration of divergence of E d tau. So the divergence theorem is here utilized to convert the surface integration into the volume integration. And this can be substituted in our previous equation. So we'll get the volume integration of divergence of E d tau, that is equal to the volume integration of sigma upon epsilon 0 d tau. Volume is going to be the same in both the cases, so it can be removed, and we get the integral must be equal both the sides. So we can write divergence of E is equal to rho upon epsilon 0. This equation is nothing but Gauss's law in a differential forms. Now previously we have studied the Gauss's law in integral forms, and this is the Gauss's law in differential forms, because delta is nothing but differential operator. The differential version is Staedtler, but the integral form has the advantage in that it accommodates the point charge or line charge or surface charge and or a volume charge density. Now we'll study about the electrical potential. What is the electrical potential? You can consider that if there is a unit charge, unit positive charge, which brought from an infinite distance to a distance r, then amount of work done is nothing but electrical potential. So in any electric field, if you bring a charge from infinite distance to a particular distance with respect to some reference point, is called electrical potential. Now in this electric field, if you consider two different points A and B, then this charge, the test charge, can be moved from point A to point B. In any path, the amount of work done can be calculated, and from B to A, if the amount of work done is going to be calculated, both the amount of work done is going to be same, but one is going to be positive, another one is going to be negative, and hence we can cancel out them, and finally we get the curl of E is equal to 0. And from this, finally, it is true for any points A and B, and integral must be equal. So from this one, we can find out E is equal to negative gradient of potential. This is very important equation. It relates with the electrical potential and electric field. Potential is the scalar quantity and electric field is the vector quantity. So what happens? If we find out the potential, then from that the electric field can be determined. So that is the importance of electrical potential here. Now the Poisson's equation and Laplace equation. Now using the same equation, E is equal to minus del V, we can obtain the Poisson's equation. The relation delta can operate with the electric field in two different ways. Either it is going to be del dot E or it is going to be del cross E. If del dot E is there, then it is equal to rho upon epsilon 0, and del cross E is going to be there, that is equal to 0. That is for electrostatic conditions. So divergence of E is equal to my delta dot, and we substitute here E is equal to minus grade phi or minus grade V, that is equal to minus del square V. Here del square is nothing but the Laplace operator. The divergence of E is the Laplacian of V. So the Gauss's law, then del square V is equal to minus rho upon epsilon 0, which is known as Poisson's equations. In region where there is no charge, so rho is equal to 0 in that region, and Poisson's equation reduced to the Laplace equation, that is known as the del square V is equal to 0. So this Poisson's equation and Laplace equation is very important, and solving this equation in differential form, we can find out the solutions for the potential in that region of the space. Laplace equation in one dimension. So the introduction. The primary task of electrostatic is to find the electric field of a given stationary charge distribution. In principle, this purpose is accomplished by Coulomb's law in this form. That is, electric field is a function of position vector r, that is equal to 1 upon 4 pi epsilon 0, the volume integration of rho r dash d tau dash r caret upon r square. Unfortunately, integral of this type can be difficult to calculate for any but the simplest charge configuration. Occasionally, we can get around this by exploiting symmetry and using the Gauss's law. But ordinarily, the best strategy is first to calculate the potential V, and from that we can derive the electric field. Because the electric field is a vector quantity, and calculation with the vector quantity is slightly difficult compared to scalar quantity, and hence first we calculate the potential, and from that we can derive the electric field. So what is the equation of the potential? Vr is equal to 1 upon 4 pi epsilon 0, the volume integration of 1 upon r rho r dash d tau dash. Still, even this integral is often too tough to handle analytically. You may ask question, why it is going to be difficult? The reason is that if the charge is going to be spread over some conductor, then you don't have the control that how the charge is going to be distributed. As soon as you put the charge on a conductor, it will be randomly distributed. You cannot know how the charge and where is the charge, how much charge is going to be distributed in different surface area. But the total charge can be known, and hence this kind of integrals are difficult to evaluate. So in that case, it is better that we can recast the problems in a differential form using the Poisson's equations. That is, del square V is equal to minus rho upon epsilon 0, which together with appropriate boundary conditions is equivalent to equation 3.2. Very often, in fact, we are interested in finding the potential in a region where rho is equal to 0. If rho is equal to 0 everywhere, of course, then V is equal to 0, and there is nothing further to say. That's not what I mean. There may be a plenty of charge elsewhere, but we are confining our attention to place where there is no charge. In this case, Poisson's equation reduced to the Laplace equation, del square V is equal to 0. Or we can write our equations in a Cartesian coordinates, del square V upon del x square plus del square V upon del y square plus del square V upon del z square is equal to 0. This formula is so fundamental to the subject of, one might almost say, electrostatic is the study of Laplace equation. At the same time, it is ambiguous equation appearing in such diverse branches of the physics as gravitation and magnetism, the theory of heat, and the study of subbubbles. And mathematics, it plays a major role in analytical function theory. Laplace equation in one dimension. That is, del square V is equal to 0 is your Laplace equation. And here V can be a function of one dimension, that means it can be a function of one coordinates only. In a two dimension, it is a function of two coordinates, and in three dimension, it can be a function of three coordinates. So if we consider the Cartesian coordinate system, that means capital V is a function of x only. And in that case, the Laplace equation is converted into d square V upon dx square, that is equal to 0. And for this ordinary differential equation, the general solution is Vx is equal to mx plus b. The equation for a straight line, this is the equation for a straight line. It contains two undetermined constants, m and b, as is appropriate for a second order ordinary differential equation. They are fixed in any particular case by the boundary conditions of that problem. That means m and b are some arbitrary constant. If you substitute a particular value of m and b, corresponding to that particular straight line is going to be there. If you vary the value of m and b, then the value of that straight line is going to be changed, but it is passing from the same point. They are fixed, and in any particular case, by using the boundary conditions, we can solve this one. Let us take the example. For instance, it might be specified that v is equal to 0 at x is equal to 1 and v is equal to 0 at x is equal to 5. These are the two boundary conditions is given. Using this condition, substituting in this equation, we can generate two different equations, and solving these two different equations, we can find out the arbitrary constant m and b. The value of m slope is equal to -1 and b intersection is equal to 5. We can substitute, so v is equal to minus x plus 5 will be there. You can see that in this graph, that at x is equal to 5, the potential is going to be 0, and at x is equal to 1, the potential is going to be 4. Now, and this is the straight line. What it gives the conclusions? There are mainly two conclusions of this graph. That is, the Laplace equations is a averaging instruction. That means Vx is the average value of V is a function of x plus a and V is a function of x minus a. If you add these two and divide by 2, you will get the average value. That means Vx is equal to 1/2 inside the bracket V x plus a plus V x minus a. Laplace equation is a kind of averaging instruction. It tells you to assign to the point x the average of the value to the left and to the right of the x. That means you can take a deviation from that particular point. This may be, you can take any value of x, let us say in between. Here there may be a point where you have taken the value of v. So this point corresponding to 3, there will be some particular value of v will be there. And 3 plus something you are going to add this side, and 3 minus something you are going to subtract this side. Corresponding to that, you will be having v1 and v2, and if you add them and divide by 2, then you will get the original value of v at point 3. So this way, you can obtain the value of v is nothing but the average value of v around that point with a deviation anything. So it is averaging instruction. And second conclusion is also important. Laplace equation tolerates no local maxima or minima. Extreme value of v must occur at the endpoints. Actually, this is the consequence of the equation 1. For if there were a local maxima, v would be greater at that point than on either side, and therefore could not be the average value. Ordinarily, you expect the second derivative to be negative at maximum and positive at minimum. Since Laplace equation requires, on the contrary, that the second derivative is 0, it seems reasonable that solutions should exhibit no extrema. So if the second derivative comes to the negative, then it indicates the maximum condition, and the second derivative is going to be positive, then it is a condition for minima. But here our Laplace equation del square V is equal to 0. That means it cannot tolerate maxima or minima. The extreme value of V must occur either at the end points only. So it cannot be in between. Laplace equation in two dimensions. If capital V potential depends upon the two coordinates, Laplace equation becomes del square V upon del x square plus del square V upon del y square is equal to 0. This is no longer an ordinary differential equation. This is one involving ordinary derivative only. It is a partial differential equation. The consequently, some of the simple rules you may be knowing cannot be applied. V is depending upon the two different coordinates x and y. Hence, you cannot have an ordinary partial differential equation. It is not a simple ordinary differential equation, but it is a partial differential equation, and slightly it can be difficult to calculate. It may help to have a physical example in your mind. Picture a thin rubber membrane or a soft film stretched over some support. For definiteness, suppose you take a cardboard box, cut a wavy line all the way around, and remove the top part as shown in the figure. Now, glue a tightly stretched rubber membrane over the box so that it fits like a drum head. It won't be a flat drum head, of course, unless you choose to cut the edge off straight. Now, if you lay out coordinates xy on the bottom of the box, write Vxy of the set above the point xy will satisfy the Laplace equation. You can see in this figure. Here there was a cardboard box was there, and from the top surface it was cut down into wavy lines like this way. So uneven shape was cut down. Now from the bottom we lay out xy coordinate system. Hence this is the surface or a plane, xy plane is going to be there. From any point you can consider the height is going to be there. That height is going to be different because you have tightly glued a rubber membrane over there. So at different points the height is going to be different. So that height you can consider is a function V. So that V is a function of xy coordinates at different points. Now the value of this V can be obtained at a center. Value of the V at the center is equal to, if you take a radius R and draw a circle around that point, then the value of V over that circumference is, and if you take the average value of that, that will be the value of V at the center of the circle is going to be there. This is for the harmonic function in two dimensions have the same property we noted in one dimension. That means we will obtain the same conclusions as the conclusions we have derived in a one dimension. The value of V at a point xy is the average of those around that point. More precisely, if you draw a circle of any radius r about the point xy, the average value of V on the circle is equal to the value at the center. That means Vxy is equal to 1 upon 2 pi r, that is circumference. That is integration of closed line integration of VdL. And second conclusion, again say we have no local maxima or minima. All extrema occur at the boundaries only. Now the Laplace equation in three dimensions. In three dimensions, I can neither provide you with the explicit solutions as in one dimension, nor offer as a suggestive physical example to guide your institution as I did in two dimensions. Nevertheless, the same two property remains true. The value of V at a point R in a space is the average value of V over a spherical surface of radius r centered at r. So V is a function of r, that is equal to 1 upon 4 pi square, that is the surface area of the sphere, and the surface integration of VdA. And second conclusion, again it is the same. As a consequence, we cannot have local maxima or minima. The extreme value of V must occur at the boundaries only. Now, what activity you are supposed to do here? That activity will be kind of quiz type will be there, and that activity I am going to display on Moodle little later. But before that, you just study this lecture and complete the activity later. Thank you very much for listening this lecture and study well. Thank you. Bye.